Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, we're going to be doing some reactions to the matches this past weekend. We had some crazy clutches, some crazy matches overall. Kyle and I's team both dropped a match. I guess they're not really my team, but you know what? We're rolling with it. But we're going to do some reactions to these past matches. And we're also going to do some predictions for the final week of matches. Crazy to think we're already in the final week of matches before the major one kicks off. And then we've got a little bit of a special Valentine's Day segment to end out the podcast. But before we get into any of that, Kyle, how you doing today?
I'm pretty well. You know, week 2 done with the CDL matches. Kind of getting excited for seeing LAN again in just a few weeks' time. The online is it's it has its pros and cons, but I'm looking forward to getting back on LAN, seeing some LAN matches. So that'll be coming, like I said, in a few weeks, and then obviously I had the Super Bowl yesterday too, so that was a big hullabaloo,
Hmm.
big ado about nothing in my opinion. But yeah, so post recovery from Super Bowl trauma, and yeah, so I'm ready to dive in today.
All right. Well, if you guys do enjoy this one, you're on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 400 subs. We're very close, so that would be an awesome milestone to hit that we'd really appreciate. And then if you're on the audio platforms, obviously be sure to drop a follow if you enjoy as well, and leave a 5-star review if you're able. We've been seeing a lot of traction on the audio platforms and gaining a bigger community there, so that's awesome to see, and we really appreciate all of the support. Before we get into the news, speaking of the Super Bowl, I mean, I'm living in Wisconsin, and I'm not a Packer fan, so sometimes Packer fans can get a little loud and annoying. And I think it's now funny that obviously they're not big Lions fans here because they're a division rival. And I think it's funny now that Stafford has as many Super Bowl rings as Aaron Rodgers. But we'll talk about that later, I'm sure, when we get into our sports segment. Uh, Anyways, we got our news. Typically, like the last few weeks since the season started, we haven't really done a big news section because there's obviously so much to talk about with matches and upcoming matches and just a lot of COD being played. But we've got some notable news to talk about. A challengers roster or two were signed. And obviously, the first roster change of the year was made. Kind of a big one, I would say. After watching the matches for the first couple weeks, it's not unexpected. But like, if you would have told me this was going to happen coming into the year, I think most people would say that that was pretty unexpected and crazy for this to happen at least so early in the year. And that is Neptune being benched by NYSL. They brought in Royalty. I guess first, Kyle, were they too quick to chalk up Neptune and get rid of him? And then second, Royalty's coming in. I know you're a newer fan of the CDL. I probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but Royalty was one of the first players ever signed on the Pro COD roster for a major esports org. That's a little trivia question for you. Do you know who that org was?
100 Thieves.
Oh, let's go. I'm proud of you.
I saw the jail cell jersey pick on CDL Intel, so that's
Yeah,
a
they
little
qualified out
cheat.
of relegation and my favorite game of all time, Black Ops 3, and their roster was absolutely horrendous. Like they couldn't win maps. It was bad.
Yeah, I
Royalty
saw.
was like the only reason they weren't losing 250-0 in every map though, because he was frying.
Yeah, I saw the picture of him in the old like black and white stripes. Looks like they just broke out of the state penitentiary or something. But yeah, I saw that, and then so that was my educated guess of the day. But yeah, we're talking about this NYSL squad. If they were too quick to chalk up Neptune, um, I'm kind of conflicted on this. Obviously, they paid. We would expect a decent amount of cash to to liberate Neptune from the Mutineers. Obviously one of the standout rookies, I guess. I mean, he kind of had his moments in Cold War for sure. And probably was one of the more hyped up and comers, I guess. Probably behind Hydra and Standy and Insight in that kind of Cold War rookie group. Um, so
Hmm.
people had some expectations about how he would fare, and coming into this squad of Clay, Crim, Hydra, two very 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 established veterans, and then Hydra, who had a great Cold War season. So yeah, I mean, obviously they had some struggles in week 1 and flipped the switch, went 0-2, and then kind of made this big roster change after just 2
Yeah.
matches. And there's definitely a lot of internal struggles as well with they sent Paco went back to France over the holidays, and then they had stuff with COVID, and I guess what wasn't it Neptune that had some like thumb infection or some like
Yeah.
skin infection or something. So I don't know. It just seems like they were hitting a lot of roadblocks. Probably weren't able to get all the practice in that they wanted to. Um, I'll say it. I think they were a little bit too quick to make this change. And I just hope that they're not grasping at straws, trying to find some like snake oil miracle solution for bringing this team together, because I do think that this team could have worked. Uh, it's just a matter of finding the correct way to play this game, because this isn't a conventional Call of Duty in the sense of like predictable spawns per se. And I think teams are still figuring out how to play this game, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
I think that usually we don't see teams really come into final form until at least the second half of the season, like we saw in Modern Warfare. Like Dallas Empire were finding completely new ways to play hardpoint and search when it came down to like champs and stuff too. So
Absolutely.
the game does evolve over time. I would have liked to see them stick out with this squad through at least the first major LAN, if not longer. But Clay and Krim are veterans. They have high expectations for themselves and for their teammates, and ultimately, this is probably their decision. So yeah, but I know I kind of monologued for a little while, but that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like if you can kind of look at it two different ways. I feel like if you look at the roster on paper without the relationship factors and like what's happening in real time with their relationships, it seems like they chalked it way too early because like um on paper we obviously know Krim and Clay, like don't have to mention what they've done. We know what they can do. And Hydra, we know is one of the most talented players in the league currently. And then Neptune, we know he hasn't maybe hit his stride like in Cold War. It took him a while and stuff, but like we know he's got a lot of talent and he can be a very fast paced sub that can open up the map for his teammates. But when you look at the relationship side of it, it makes sense. And I don't know that they necessarily chalked it too quickly because with the stage that said relationships were at, I don't think it was going to work out. Basically, like the reports coming out of the camp where they didn't get along. Like Neptune felt like he was being held in a cage by Krim and Clay. And like from some of the reports, it almost sounds like Neptune decided to bench himself because he felt like he wasn't able to play how he wanted to play. Like he basically was just supposed to sit in the hill the whole time is like how he felt because they didn't like want to unleash him and like let him be free and like take routes and try to make plays as a sub. They wanted him to just like be in the hill. And that's why he was like getting such low engagements for a player that you think would be at a high speed. Because we know Neptune has some crazy movement, second to not too many in the league with his movement. And he just felt like he was kind of caged up. So I guess I don't think it was necessarily too early based on what was going on, but I could see how like if you didn't hear any about any of the relationship issues, you could think that. Um, it sounds like from what I heard Parasite say on the new podcast Reverse Sweep for Deserto, they were like on the verge of signing Royalty as their sub before the season started. So I don't know necessarily that this is the last move that this team will make. I think maybe since they had already talked to Royalty, they maybe had chemistry with him and were looking at him. I think he could be like a quick band-aid fix to try to not let the year get too out of hand and like hope that they can win a couple matches with him and like stay in the running while they maybe look to make a bigger move. Because I feel like for a team with Krim and Clay, Royalty is a good player, but I feel like they're going to go for the home run. Uh, Although Royalty, if they want some speed, he can certainly bring it and play at a pace with Hydra. Because I don't know how much you know about Royalty, but that's what he was famous for when he came into the league in Black Ops 3 was he played at like 8.8 or 9.9 sensitivity, which like typically people are playing like 4, 5, 6, and he just came in and he was whipping all around like he was like a YouTube quick scoper. Like his sensitivity, he plays at an insane blistering pace when he needs to. And he's a very good player, so I do think this team could turn around with him. And he's a veteran, smart player, but I don't know what this team's done with moves yet.
Yeah, that was kind of my initial thought. With who might be the final solution if they were just looking for this band-aid fix, as you were saying. Um,
Hmm.
I think that could definitely be a discussion for another day, maybe. We could easily get bogged down in that, like, oh, who do we think that New York should target or something. Um, it definitely, probably comes down to resources as well too. Like if they have the money allocations to go out and probably buy somebody out, because I don't know if Crim and Clay are really going to be taking a chance with like a challengers pickup, especially like since Neptune really didn't work out. And um, so yeah, I guess we could see that down the line, have a discussion on that. um, but yeah, I mean, maybe it turns out to be that Royalty acclimates to the team well, and that they find some success. I guess to me, success for them right now would be playing like 500 baseball, like just equal out your wins and your losses and try not to get too far behind the pack.
Yeah, because we know with Clay and Crim, they could round into form at the end of the year and be right there back in top four if they're able to just hold steady and just win enough matches to get there.
Yeah, exactly. They just have to make sure they don't fall back to like the Mutineers Paris, part, which is which is through 2 weeks. That's where they're at. So,
Yeah.
hopefully they don't fall too far back, or the infighting doesn't get too bad
Hmm.
there. Because definitely, like, you have a lot of personalities in Crim and Clay. They have a lot of, like we said, they have a lot of expectations for themselves and their team.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also interesting to note on that podcast as well. There are people like Enable, who is very good friends with Clayster, Karim, Parasite, also very good friends with those guys. Like they know these people well, and I'm sure they've talked to them. And I mean, Enable was saying he doesn't know that Clay and Krim can be on the same team in 4v4, which I think that might be a little bit of an overreaction because, I mean, they've won a world championship uh, together, granted 5v5, but they've had ridiculous success together in 4v4. Now, I mean, technically, they didn't win a world championship together in 4v4. Clay was dropped right before the event. They would have won it if they still had Clay, but like they won like 7 out of 8 events when they were together in 4v4. Like they've won a lot together in 4v4. Like that's not a question. So I think that might be a little bit of an overreaction from Enable, but I can see where he's coming from since they've played so bad. But also Parasite had mentioned, which he's obviously very in tune with the challengers scene, having been in it for so long. He said that this definitely wasn't Crim's first choice in the offseason. He was looking to build a team. I believe I heard this. Parasite didn't say this, but I believe the rumor was him or Slasher or Hook were like kind of the guys that are potentially building a team in LA for the Gorillas. And that obviously fell through. And like they were talking about, Crim was potentially supposed to stay on that OpTic roster instead of Dashy, but Shotzi and Illy didn't want him. So this maybe necessarily wasn't Crim's first choice. So maybe that's playing a factor in the vibes in the team. But we can talk about subliners a little more. We don't need to spend too much more time on an 0-3 team, even though they do have such big names. But we can move on to your rocker news. Your team, the Rockers, signed a Spanish challengers team, which is Journey, Lucky, Metals, and then Real. I'm not sure how you say it. He's a newer player. I believe he's 18, or he's a very young player if he's not 18. They signed that Spanish Challengers team as their academy roster in Minnesota. And if you guys don't know who this Challengers team is, they're like dominant. They've won, what do we say, 3 out of the last 4 or 5 events in the European Challengers scene. They're the best team over there. I mean, if you've been a COD fan for at least a little bit of time, you at least know Journey, Lucky, and Metals for sure, because they're on that Heretics team back in BO4. That was a consistent top 6, top 8 finisher in a lot of tournaments, which for a team that was basically their first year playing in pro tournaments as a pro team, like back in that time, like top 6 or top 8 doesn't sound great now in the CDL, but back when there was bigger team tournaments, like a top 6 finish was nothing to be ashamed of. Top 8, that's pretty good finish. So those are players with a history. Metals even played for Ultra and Modern Warfare for a little bit. I believe Lucky and Journey, or at least Journey, was on like the Faze Academy team in MW. Like these are some good players. What do you think? Any implications for possible substitutes for the main team, maybe business side? I mean, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to see any substitutions because I'm not sure. I believe like Journey or Lucky, one of them speaks really good English, but I mean, they're all players that I believe are from Spain, so don't know how well they speak English or if they speak English. So I don't know how that would mesh with the current team. We talked about a little bit like this could be a potential business side thing because I mean, there's always been rumors that like a Madrid team or a team at least somewhere in Spain could come in with expansion with Heretics, and I mean, these are former Heretics players. Maybe they'll want to buy them out and make an all Spanish roster. So maybe some implications there.
yeah, I definitely think that this was purely a business move side, and definitely for possible expansion. Maybe they did it as well just to like snap up these players and make sure that no other of the 11 teams could get the rights to them. So that if we do get expansion next year, or a team just totally chalks their roster during this season, that they can't go snap up the best EU challengers team. They'd have to go to Rocker to buy them out. So it's a savvy business move on my in my estimation. And then also, it gives these challengers players a little bit more like financial backing as well. We know a lot of these challengers players, they've put their lives on hold to play Call of Duty for essentially just prize money. They're not really getting supplemented by an org that we not too many of them have like an income other than their winnings and stuff too, or their sponsorships. um if they're individually sponsored on stream or something. But yeah, I like this move. I think this is the second CDL team this season to delve into the challengers scene as well. And I'm just glad that it's Rocker. This obviously I sing Rocker's organizational praises till the end of time. I think they do a lot of things right. And I'm just surprised that they went to the EU side as well. Like they're showing that a team in the Midwest Great Lakes region, Minnesota, is signing a Spanish team from across
Yeah,
the
yeah,
across the ocean. I just think it's kind of fun. Um, so yeah.
yeah, and it's also like I'm not like super familiar with all the top teams and challengers, but like I'm very glad that it is this team because like a lot of times, especially since we're uh in North America, in the US, and like so much of the attention and like a lot of the pros are from NA, are either mostly Canadian or American. It's like that challenger scene is also the one that gets most of the love and the spotlight and stuff. So it's awesome to see a team that you could argue is maybe the best team in challengers, like not only the best team in Europe, but in they're like the most successful team this year, regardless of region. So like you could even argue they're maybe the best challengers team in all of challengers, like not even region specific. So like it's good to see a team over there in Europe getting some credit, and like maybe not the usual suspect of a country in Europe either, because typically like we see the players come over, it's like UK, France, like are like the main countries, and this is, I believe, I know for a fact 3 of them. I think Real, I'm pretty sure he's from Spain as well. So like to see an all Spanish team on top of not just an EU team get signed is pretty cool. So I'm really a fan of it. All right, another academy roster kind of news. There was that rumor that Ultra was going to sign Royalty's old roster with, I believe, like Exotic and those guys to their academy, but now Royalty's on NYSL. So I didn't see if they signed a new roster or if that's kind of up in the air now. But Royalty obviously shot the initial plans of that rumor because he joined a pro team. You got anything to say on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so this Ultra team, did they replace their fourth spot with anybody?
On Royalty's roster, I can't remember because I was on such
Is
short notice.
Diamond
So
Con
they
Exotic, uh, and then Royalty was the third. I can't remember who the fourth was even.
No, and I'm sure it could be like a potential like short term fix as well
Right.
because they had such short notice of Royalty um, joining the roster. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
that rumored Ultra team kind of falls through.
yeah, I was just more or less putting that in just for Ultra again getting into the challengers scene as well with financially backing a team. And we've seen so much talent come up through challengers as well that it's still vastly
Oh,
underappreciated with how especially in the recent years how much talent we've seen just come up through it. So yeah, that was my thing. Like, maybe this Ultra team could turn into something special.
you know who replaced Royalty?
No, I don't.
Neptune. Neptune replaced him on the team. They just swapped places. I was just looking at it because I knew I knew it, but I couldn't remember it. And I just looked. Yeah, like uh, the rumor was that Ultra was going to sign Diamond Con, Royalty, Exotic, and Hixie as their challengers roster, but now it looks like it is Neptune onto that team, but things have kind of switched around a little bit. Where did I see that here? Neptune is now on a roster. Where's that? Yeah, Challengers, Neptune, Diamond, Spartan, Prolude are now a Challengers team according to Spart from February 9th. And obviously, like that team wouldn't be able to be signed because Spart is the sub for LAG, so they wouldn't be able to sign as the Ultra Academy, I'm assuming. And then, yeah, so that team is kind of chalk for now. Ultra's still looking for a team, but at least they're in the market to be looking. Because like last year, we saw like no academy teams besides like that NYSL one, really, who ended up really being the best challengers team last year in NA. So kind of cool that Ultra's looking at academy teams. Hopefully, that's something we see more of in the future. So some of these top challengers players can actually get some steady income for, like you said, kind of putting their lives on hold. All right. Next thing, big announcement, something that's big for me. The thing I'm most hyped about in the news section here is ELO and like a skill ranking system for ranked play coming to Vanguard this Thursday, the 17th. I'm off work for some family stuff on Friday this week, which means I'm going to get 2 hours of sleep, probably going to play ranked play until 5 a.m. With some of my buddies and be a degenerate for the night and try to hit Masters first night. But I'm very excited. ELO system makes the game worth grinding. Like I always said, Vanguard, not the best game, but when you actually have a real system to grind and like you can see the number go up and try to get to the top placement, I'm going to be going for that top 250 board. So maybe I'll see some of you out there. Maybe if I actually end up somehow getting pretty close to that top 250, which I don't know, I think I have a chance. We can do a little content series around it or something. But I'm excited for ranked play. It's going to produce a lot of content, at least initially, since there is an ELO system. And unfortunate it had to take this long. But you know what? In terms of how ranked play has been in the past, when we get our small Ws, we have to take our small Ws.
Yeah, I think this is exciting. It should inject some life into the virtually dead Vanguard streams.
Yeah.
I don't watch any Pro 8s. I know that they've, been hit or miss, getting them up and running. Even if like, Zuma's casting it or something, like it's still kind of just like, yeah, do I really want to go see like that? But hopefully it inspires some pros to turn on the stream and I know asking them to do extra stuff after practice and stuff is we're not really entitled to all that stuff because they do put in a lot of time on their competitive side.
Absolutely.
So
It's probably draining too.
yeah, and any benefit that we get, is just icing on the cake, I guess. We should really look at it that way. But yeah, I mean, I think I could find myself, watching a little bit here and there. Who's grinding, ELO ranked, who's playing well, who's not, and seeing some pros team up, like if Scump and Abezy are on a team or something, and grinding some ranked. Yeah, it offers opportunities for fun stuff like that. Like you get to see players playing with teammates that they normally probably wouldn't. I don't even know if that's an option, but it's something that could be cool. Get some streamers playing alongside with them as well. Maybe some Warzone guys come over for a little bit and draw some crowds from there. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it'll kick up some interest in playing some competitive game modes, and viewership might increase a little bit because of that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it initially will for sure increase viewership and make things more interesting because like everybody's obviously, especially with it being not just like a rank play drop like Cold War where it really wasn't rank play, it actually is an elo system and it's like a potential legit ranked play system. So I feel like that initial uptick in viewers will be very high. Hopefully the elo system actually works correctly and is something that is fun to grind because when we in World War II, a lot of players were streaming that elo system ranked play long after scrims and like the notable one, it was really before Abezy was like a full pro. He was kind of on like a fringe like qualifying roster in Enigma 6, but he was grinding ranked play. He had like multiple accounts in the top 10 for total elo, and like that's where like content series came around. A guy named Ryan Bacardi was like a random ranked play kid that like got towards the top, and he'd like play against a lot of pros, and like he became like popular. Like, oh my god, I got a lobby with Ryan Bacardi. If you're at the top, like the kid was like known in the community from just being like a grinder of ranked play, and like a lot of content series can come out of it. So yeah, I feel like at least initially it'll hopefully provide us an uptick in viewership. Maybe get some new people interested in the game when they either accidentally or purposely click the rank tab to try to learn what it is. Because believe it or not, there are so many people out there that don't even know the CDL exists that are playing Call of Duty every single day. Like, the audience could get so much larger. So I think it'll see an uptick in viewership at least initially, but hopefully the system is truly good and fun enough to play that we can continue to see that viewership actually stay. I mean, obviously in the beginning it's going to be higher than it ever will be the rest of the year, just because all people are tuning in to like see what it's about. But hopefully it can at least retain some of those viewers and provide an uptick. But we're gonna need a couple more maps so it doesn't get really stale of people watching the same 3 maps over and over and over again. But I'm excited for it. All right, last little thing of news before we kind of react to the matches from the week. Bryson Tunn, first time casting for the CDL. Obviously, if you're a newer fan, you probably like. I believe for Kyle, this was his first time hearing them. They've casted a lot of champs in the past when they needed extra casters for like Bravo, Charlie Stream, and stuff, and they've casted plenty of COD in the past. They've always been very good, but I think for people that haven't heard them or are newer fans, this is the first time they maybe heard them, and I think Kyle will probably attest to the fact that they're pretty good this weekend, and they're very good casters. So it's nice to have them in. Obviously, we're still never going to change the fact, and we're always going to say we're a Merc and Maven. We need them immediately. But Bryson Tunn, very good at what they do. Very happy to have them. They're great casters, so they're definitely not like a pair that we're upset to have. It's just very sad that we don't have Maven and Merc. So unfortunately for them, people are just always going to talk about that. But they're very good at what they do, and I liked listening to their cast. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought they were they filled in pretty well. I didn't have anything negative to say about them. I thought they had good chemistry. Um, you could definitely tell that they've casted before together, and like you were saying, that was my first exposure to them. Being that I came in during the Modern Warfare season, and yeah, I'm excited to have at least a third set of voices on the stream as well. And yeah, I feel like this is good on esports engine as well to be doing. I don't know if they're directly responsible for acquiring on-air talent or whatever, but I like the changes that they've done. And I'm definitely seeing some benefits even with the online matches, having the like the main headquarters desk, like having it actually be like 3 people at an actual desk instead of like green screen stuff, everybody in their bedroom or something. I think
Yeah.
that's a really big benefit as well. Like you actually have like Nameless and Alley Cat like in the same room at the same desk and stuff.
Even
And
Valley's been there too.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's been a really big benefit as well, because it makes it look more professional. And then I think that combined with like Bryson Tunn coming in, uh, you know, at least the broadcast production side is like getting a big benefit from this esports engine merger. So
Yeah, they've been fantastic. They better never leave us because it's only the second week of matches, and we've already noticed such a high uptick in just the overall quality of the broadcast. So I can't even imagine how much better it's going to be when we hit LAN. I mean, they were pretty darn good in that first LAN for the Kickoff Classic, and that was really their first trial run. So as we get into the majors and champs and everything, I'm excited to see the production of the quality continue to get better, because I have all the faith in the world that it will do so. But now it's time to move into our reactions for week 2 of the matches. It was a pretty interesting week, although I will say there were some definitely snoozer matches in there, namely the one we're going to kind of start with. Talk about OpTic. They start to right the ship. Unfortunately, it would have been nice to maybe see them have a second match this week, because obviously, like, we're expecting them to beat Paris, but we can't just completely disregard what they did just because they played Paris. It wasn't like it was a very close match where it was like, ooh, OpTic, went to a game 5, took them a game 5 to beat Paris. No, they pretty much handled them in this series. They beat them on a Bocage hardpoint by about 60 points and took them out in a 6-3 search and a 3-1 control. Honestly, to me, the biggest positive from the series for OpTic was Illy. Illy finished with the highest KD in the team with a 1.28 on that Bocage specifically. Like, he was running around just having his way on the map. 35 and 24. Obviously, Shotzzy went 41 and 28 in the map as well. But I would say And I think you would agree with me that we're expecting Shotzzy maybe not to drop a 1.46 in every hard point, but like it's expected that Shotzzy is going to be the guy on Bouquet just dropping a 40 bomb and leading the team in slaying because that's what his role is. But Illy's more known for that career 0.9. Like he's more of the IGL. Like he can snap, but like big slaying games maybe aren't necessarily his thing. But he obviously looks very good in that hard points. And then him and Dashy both dropped 9 in the search for a very good game and helped them win that. Honestly, a pretty impressive match out of OpTic. It's like I said, it's hard to take a lot from it just because it is Paris. But I think the upside is we saw Dashy step up in search where he struggled heavily, and Illy step up in respawn where maybe he's been not too great so far this year. So a very good match for OpTic. You like to see them 3-0 because it maybe gives them some confidence going into a pivotal week of matches for them.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of headlined this as like OpTic begin to right the ship. Like not I didn't say like, oh, OpTic is like 100% back because we don't really know that yet. Like it's like being conservative with it, like they're beginning to right the ship. Dispatching of Paris 3-0 is probably what we should have predicted in our in last week, but I think we were a little bit more cautious. We were like, oh, maybe Paris, Paris coming off 2 close matches, losses that they had, and then maybe they can find a way to eke out maps or something. But OpTic kind of had their way with them. And yeah, it was good to see Illy have a standout performances here. Shotzzy obviously, doing what he does best, and then Dashy and the search and destroy. And then, but I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, if you really want to read tea leaves, like you could say, like maybe Scump has had a slower start to the year than you would have wanted.
He fried in that first series though of the year. Like he
Yeah,
was the lead slayer big time. The first whole weekend.
Right. Yeah,
and sometimes when your teammates are both dropping 40, it's hard for you to find kills because there's not many left on the map.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like I said, I'm not gonna read the tea leaves myself, but again, when you're only playing 3 maps against the lowest team in the league, like maybe you just have to like sit in the hill or do something.
Well,
just
and
like,
one bad hard point skews your stats because you only get one.
Exactly.
But one thing I will say to mention about that search and destroy, like we said, Dashy 4-15 in search and destroy coming in to this week. And obviously that's not 4-15 coming this week. I'm sorry, 4-15 in that Rocker series, which was the last time we saw OpTic play a match. And then he obviously goes 9-5 in this series, or in the search in this series. Yeah, he goes 9-5. Interesting note for that. We talked about Dashy maybe having the sniper out a little too much and not in situations that were necessarily beneficial. We actually saw them swap it a little bit this weekend. Dashy kept the automaton out, and Illy had the sniper out for a bit of search, which is interesting because obviously we know Dashy, you could argue he's the best sniper in the game, best sniper in the league. Obviously, we haven't seen it too much this year, but based on past performance, we know like it's probably a battle between him and Simp. Maybe Cammy's in there, but we know Dashy's right at the top. But obviously, Dashy has an absolute beam with an AR, and it was interesting to see Illy pull it out, lock in a spot. I think technically at 2 and 3, like at least one team will probably make it into the winner side of things, but you don't want to have to rely on anybody to help you out. But obviously, I think tiebreakers come down to map count, so a 3-0 is big for them to not drop any maps. But they have a pretty tough week. They have 2 matches that you could easily see them lose because they're definitely not shoo-ins by any means. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. Next team we've got on the list, Ultra goes 6-0 on map count on the week. With Hecz subbing in for the second match because looks like Cammy had COVID, wasn't feeling the best, wasn't ready to play in that final match versus Florida. Hecz subs in, does honestly pretty well. I mean, Hecz had a pretty good overall series for just stepping in. He dropped almost a 0.9, which on short notice, just jumping in was not the worst thing in the world. Can't imagine it was the easiest thing to do. Ultra do 3-0 Florida in that second series. Granted, they had to like last second beat them in hardpoint 221 to 220, round 11 in the search, and then a 3-2 down to the last second control. So like it very easily could have been a 3-0 for Florida. But so as to be the story of the year for Florida so far this year. Just a bunch of close losses, tough losses, just tough to swallow stuff. But Ultra go 6-0, map count on the weekend. Obviously, that means they go 2-0 for their matches, and they look pretty good. And Hecz looks pretty good. So kind of overall just positives everywhere for Ultra this weekend.
Yeah, I guess we could say that Ultra really righted the ship after they only
Yeah.
played one map in the first weekend, and then they go 2-0, so they have a winning record now. They're setting themselves up for good results this coming week. I mean, they have I think that they have more of a hard week too. They play they play OpTic and the Thieves coming up. I'm seeing, so they don't have easy matches by any means as well. So I think getting these results were positive for them. Obviously, the Hecz thing was interesting. Obviously we would probably see Cammy come back in when he's feeling well. Hopefully that he's able to recover and get back in for this coming week. Given the pretty intense matches that they have coming up. But yeah, I mean 6-0, you can't really have too many negative things to say about the Ultra here. They're doing what everyone probably expected them to do. So yeah, credit to them.
Yeah, I think we can move on to the next set of teams here. Kind of gonna probably lump these two together and talk about them. And that is LAG and Ravens. Ravens obviously pull off an upset, or I'm sorry, LAG pulls off an upset on Ravens, takes them out in pretty convincing fashion, honestly. And then Ravens obviously take out Minnesota also in pretty convincing fashion. So Ravens improve. Well, I guess kind of stay even keel because they went 1-1, but they're 3-1 pretty much. I would say locked into a winners bracket spot. And then LAG wins a crucial match to get themselves to 2-2. Which obviously doesn't guarantee them a winner's bracket spot by any means, but it does put them in a position to at least have a chance in this final week to secure a winner's bracket spot. And they are playing Rockers, so it's not like that's an impossible match. That's kind of a team that's on their level. So big win for LAG, and also a big win considering it is London. Now, granted, London was 3-0 coming to the match, not like we consider them to be like the top team by any means, but they're certainly a hot team. And for LAG to kind of handle them in pretty good fashion, especially in that final hardpoint, kind of burying them on Berlin was big to see. So obviously a lot of positives to take away from LAG in a must-win game backs against the wall. They take out an undefeated Ravens team. And then for Ravens, I think, they're bound to lose a match eventually. They did look very good against Minnesota, namely kind of dominating Minnesota in search and destroy, which I think a lot of us would argue Minnesota is the best search team in the game. So the fact that Ravens dominated them in search was pretty good. So kind of a mixed bag for Ravens, I'd say. Very good to see them beat a team in Minnesota, especially in their strength game mode, and then bury them in the hard points. And then huge out of LAG to pull off an upset on an undefeated London team.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the Gorillas. Obviously, big result for them to not fall any further.
Yeah, almost guaranteed losers bracket if they do fall.
Yeah, so they even themselves up to 2-2, and then really one of the big surprises, I guess, maybe not to everyone, but to me at least, was Ravens starting off as hot as they did, going 3-0, and then they did get humbled a little bit in their fourth
Which might
match.
be good for them.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, it's nice to see Gorillas, start to play cohesively, and they're seeing their roles kind of like, I don't know, pay off, I guess, is the term that comes to mind. Like, they had Hook kind of doing his thing, and Asum was like frying and not, Asum like has been going pretty positive, and he's not throwing his life away as much, which is, anytime you can get your like slaying SMG, like your entry slayer guy to do that, and not to conserve his lives and stuff, especially with like how long the respawn timer is and stuff as well, is a big benefit for them. And then obviously Slasher gunless. with the ARs and stuff. Nice to see them. You know, I don't want to say rounding into form because we're still really early in the year. But they're getting results. Especially up against a really hot London team as well. And then for Ravens, yeah, I mean they continue to impress in my book. They're 3-1. I got a little bit of flack on Twitter, from you
From my
about
boy
it.
Alfie.
Yeah, well, I think that I don't. They're surprising me, especially for how early they're kind of finding this form. Um, because you can go back and check the transcripts, but I said that I did want them to be good, and
Yeah,
that I think that it's really good for the EU scene as well.
it's really good for
To
the
have
league.
to have their representation, be a really competitive team. Like we saw the modern warfare Ravens, finish top 4 at champs.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously that team had a totally different makeup and chemistry to it. And then we have this team, finding early success as well. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think they just ran up against a really good LAG squad on Sunday.
With a lot to lose.
Yeah, and not to say that these teams should be taking any matches off. I think every match matters, especially when you're only playing 5 of them to seed into a major.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean they continue to impress, and I think that I don't think this loss will really affect them too much. I think that they'll just brush it off and continue their preparations and playing really fundamentally sound Call of Duty, and they seem to have figured
Yeah.
this game out pretty early on, so that's good for them.
Which I think has to be some credit to Trey Zero as the leader of the team. I think he deserves some credit, and I also think he deserves some credit for he popped off against Minnesota. Had like a 1.17 on the series overall. Was absolutely nasty this weekend. I think the interesting note for me for Ravens is I still think they're a team that has a pretty a low floor. Like I could see them really bottoming out and just like losing, especially on LAN when Zero obviously has tons of experience, but the other players in the team have next to no experience. I think for at least a couple of them, their first pro match on LAN was the Kickoff Classic. So they have next to no LAN experience. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue to do this on LAN because that's always a question mark until you see players do it. With fans, will they get nervous? Because obviously we saw some differences be made once we saw fans be introduced back in to tournaments last year on LAN. But I think the interesting note for me for Ravens is coming into this year when we were talking rookie of the year, the big guy that was hyped up was Nasty. Obviously, you got your Pred, your Sib, but in terms of on the Ravens, like people were talking about Nasty, rookie of the year favorite, and to me, he's been the like quietest player on the team. Obviously, Zero struggled a little bit in the beginning, but tried against Minnesota and has looked very good. And we know what Zero brings to the table. That consistent 0.95 to 1 with the IGL skills. Just he's like the EU accuracy to me. Very similar in that aspect. He's extremely icy, maybe not the level of the Iceman accuracy, but he's always going to bring you that 0.95 to 1, and he's going to provide great comms and great leadership. And then we've seen Gizmo arguably be the best player in the team, even maybe better than my boy Afro. He's been frying. Afro has also been dropping, like, I think on the season now, he's at like a 1.14 going into that LAG match. Maybe dropped a little bit, but Afro's been disgusting this year. But Nasty, he hasn't been bad by any means. And obviously, since they were 3-0, he's been playing pretty well. But he's kind of hovering in that 0.9 range, and he was like touted as potential rookie of the year. So I feel like that's where this Ravens team could potentially even have another level to hit as they learn together, because Nasty was supposed to be this player that was kind of like the hard carry in the slaying department, and he hasn't really shown that yet. He's been good, but he hasn't been that level that we were promised he would be. So if Gizmo and Afro can keep playing at this level and Zero can be consistent, we can maybe hit that potential for Nasty that we heard. This Ravens team could have another gear to them, but I could also see them, maybe this was just a hot start and they learned faster, like we've seen teams do in the past. Look back to like the Minnesota Rocker team of MW, where they learned really fast and looked like a top 4 team and then just fell off the face of the earth. Don't think that'll happen with this Ravens team, but just wanted to note that Nasty was touted as the potential rookie of the year, and he hasn't really shown to be the best player in the team yet, which is scary if he does have that talent sitting in his back pocket. All right. Move on to our next team. I don't know that we have to spend too much time on this team. I know Kyle doesn't like to talk about them. So I don't think we have to spend
I
too much
hate
time.
talking about this team.
Paris Legion, they lose 3-0 to OpTic. Expected. I was talking to Kyle a little bit about this. In my personal opinion, I just don't think Decimate is the answer for this team. Not that subbing anybody in would make them elite, but when you do look at their roster, I mean, like you got to take some positives out of it. Obviously, you really don't have to, but like when we're looking at things to note of what the team did well, like Fellow drops a 1.2 in the first respawn, everybody else kind of gets fried. Decimate is a good search and destroy game. Everybody else kind of struggles in that map too. Temp was okay. And then the final map, John fried in the control, really kept them in that game with a 1.3. And then Temp was around a 1 again. Temp's been pretty darn good all year. Temp looks like he could be a building block for the team because he's been dragging them to be competitive in respawns this year, and so has John. Those two look pretty solid. I do think Fellow's a good player. I just think this situation maybe isn't the best for him. But Decimate, I mean, I'm not a Decimate fan in this situation. I feel like if they had another aggressive sub to play with John, they could maybe make themselves look okay. But this Paris team is just not at a level to compete with top teams because it is such a weird just mix of players. I do think John and Temp have shown enough that they could be very good building blocks for a team. But the issue is they would need some superstars. Like they need a superstar SMG to pair with John and a good steady main AR. If it isn't Fellow, which I do think it could be Fellow. I think if they had a superstar SMG to replace Decimate, team could be solid. Issue is Paris won't shell out. So it's really not much to talk about because they will not shell out for a superstar SMG, as we've seen many times.
Yeah, this might be a team where you say that they're like one piece away from being like somewhat competitive, or I guess they're a pro team, so they're competitive inherently, but maybe from winning a match because they're 0-4. Like you said, Decimate might have to be the one to go if we're prophesizing a move. I think Temp has been like hard carrying this team from slaying perspective. Yeah, I'm looking at that Breach series. He had 191 engagements.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He's backpacking this team hard. I think Fellow is doing a serviceable job as well. I don't want to, discount him. And then, John, we saw some glimpses week 1 of him, returning to his old form.
He also he has a lot of clutches in Search and Destroy as well. It seems like every time he's in a 1, he wins it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had that insane clutch to I believe that was against Faze in a Search and Destroy. I can't remember who that was against, but he had a pretty insane clutch at some point in a Search and Destroy on Tuscan. I can't remember if that was the first week, but yeah, I agree with you. They're like one piece away from being a team that fights for that middle like 9, 10, that range and getting out of the bottom, but they're just not going to make the move. I mean, they had Hydra in their hands originally and they didn't make it. So they're never going to make that move.
Yeah, but I don't want to spend any more time on this team than we have to. So,
and they don't put in any effort to be a competitive
if you want to move
team,
on,
so
if you want to move on, I'm down for that.
I don't think they deserve airtime. They don't put effort to be a competitive franchise, so we don't need to put effort into talking about them. All right. Now we're going to talk about your boys. Reality check for Rocker. They drop matches to Surge in London. Now, I don't necessarily think that this is like time to just like be like, oh my god, Rocker, panic, because like Surge, we know are a top team, arguably the best team in the game right now, and London are kind of in the middle for me right now, but they're definitely not a bad team. Like it's not like, oh my god, you lost to London, what are you doing? Like it's not like something that's like terrible. But Rocker, they do fall to 1-2 now. Obviously, they have a win over OpTic, which was a round 11 that could have easily gone the opposite way. Like Rocker could very easily be 0-3 right now, and it's not that far off from happening. They're not. They're 1-2, which is obviously a little better, but kind of crazy to think about this team being 1-2 because they're a carryover roster from last year, one of the few teams that didn't make a roster move. I heard some interesting stats. Obviously, this is your team, but I kind of wanted to drop this on you and then kind of hear your thoughts. I heard on the reverse sweep episode on Deserto, I was listening to the beginning. They were talking a little bit about Rocker and how Attach in like almost every series has the lowest engagements, which you think Attach is a more methodical player, so it kind of makes sense. But it's odd because he's playing a sub, and in this game, subs just play at a blistering pace with how fast the game is and how scrappy it is. And Attach is oftentimes the lowest engagement guy, which to me isn't necessarily a fault on how Attach plays, because I think Attach is one of the smartest players in the league. I just think it's a role issue, and that's what they were talking about. Maybe Priesta needs to switch onto the sub because we know Priesta likes to play at such a fast pace. And this isn't me saying that and assuming that. I mean, this is from the mouth of Enable and Hecz, who both, Hecz teamed with Priesta for an entire season in IW. and enable team with him for an entire season in Black Ops 4. Like these are players that have been his teammates for a full year and have seen him use a sub full time. Priestahh was a full time sub on that Cloud9 team in IW and a full time sub, except for maybe the occasional pull out of the Maddox in Black Ops 4 with 100 Thieves. So these are players that have played a full year. So if you don't trust to come from me, I would trust those two. To say that Priestahh loves using the sub and running around and being fast paced and cameraing people. And I think that could be a potential fix for them. To me, it just seems like this Rocker team has a very high floor because I don't think they're ever going to get blown out in a series because they're always going to be so good at 2-3-5. They're going to be a great search team and a good control team. To me, I feel like their floor is so high, but I don't know how high their ceiling is with this roster because an interesting stat I heard from one of the maps, I can't remember. I think it was a Berlin Hardpoint they played this weekend. They were like the early rotator to 11 hills, and they basically got insta-broke on 9 of those hills and got outscored on them. This team is so fundamentally sound that for a game like Cold War, it worked perfectly because when they early rotated and they held a perfect setup, they'd get that wave of kills. Other team would spawn out full 60 because that's how COD should be played. So to no fault of theirs, COD, if it's played the right way and the game is made the correct way, that works. You get a full 60 and the Rocker team's great. But in this game, the issue is they have that perfect setup. And then somebody gets that random back spawn, spawns behind them, gets a 3-piece, and their setup's chalked, and they didn't hit the old time, so now the other team's just scoring on them. I don't know what the Rockers' ceiling in this game is win an event because of this, but their floor is so high, it's hard to justify making a switch because making one switch could really hurt their search and destroy game, which they're a team that can rely on 2-3-5, and they could win a lot of series without winning hardpoint. I truly believe that. But at the same time, you could also use that argument and say, hey, you know what? If they could just become an average hardpoint team, they could be dominant because of how good they are at 2-3-5. So it's an interesting conundrum to be in, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, like reality check for Rocker. I think maybe that the OpTic round 11 win maybe got a little like of the juices flowing. Like, oh man, Rocker are just gonna find a way to clutch up, and that's gonna carry them through. And it was only one match last week, but yeah, I think that they kind of had a little come down to earth moment. Obviously, I think we both took Seattle in our predictions, so I don't think we were predicting Rocker to like really be able to go toe to toe with Seattle. And then they ended up taking them to around 11, game 5, and accuracy clutches. But yeah, and then they kind of didn't really have an answer for London at all. Like they got buried in the search and destroy, and then they won the control, and then they got that Tuscan hardpoint. It was close, but it wasn't it wasn't a nail biter by any means. And yeah, I just think that yeah, interesting what you say about a possible role swap between Attach and Priestahh. Yeah, I might have to go listen to that reverse sweep episode, or start listening to that as well. But yeah, I could see that as being a possible fix or a solution to what they're going through, because like you're saying, Attach is having low numbers of engagements, and especially in a quote unquote non-conventional Call of Duty game. You just need to be putting shots into somebody. You need to be having some kind of engagements, having some kind of presence on the map. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of the really successful teams do. You have Sib dropping like, or you have Pred dropping like 200 engagements in a series or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so that's really what it comes down to. A big part of it is just having engagements. So if they can find a way to boost up Attaches engagements or whatever, I think that would probably benefit them in the long run. Because we know this team works really well together. They have a lot of chemistry. But at the end of the day, it comes down to being able to win matches. And yeah, it's only Major 1, Week 2. So I don't think anybody should be hitting the panic button with this team, or an OpTic team that still has a losing record. Like, I don't think anybody's hitting panic buttons with these teams yet. But yeah, I mean, you'd hope to see them continue to grow and learn the game better. And, it might be that you would hope that this team can stick together and not have to bring in a new player, especially since they did stand pat during the off season. I mean, retrospectively, that is it has the beginnings of looking like a bigger gamble. Um,
Mhm.
Something that may not pay off this year, but in the in the big picture of CDL, are you really only gonna, you can't build a roster that's only gonna, compete once every 3 years. Like, oh, we just have to wait to get back to Treyarch and traditional spawns because, like, is Modern Warfare 2022 gonna be squad spawns as well? And then we're looking at like a team that, still doesn't really fully grasp how to play it, or they don't have the tools to play it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all great questions, and we're probably going to learn over the coming weeks because if we see this team go 2-0 this week, make a run to winners, have a good major one, might forget about the discussion even happening. But they do play Faze and LAG this week, so a potential 0-2 week could be staring at them. Like it wouldn't be a shocking thing for them to lose 2 matches with the quality of teams they're playing this weekend. Then they're 1-4, they're in losers, and it could be talking role swaps, roster changes. A lot of things could happen with this team. Got a couple more teams storylines to discuss. I honestly am pretty good with kind of glossing over a few of the teams we have left, unless you have anything to say, so we can get into
Right.
predictions. Because I mean, we got Boston splitting this weekend with Paris and Faze. In my opinion, Boston showed exactly who we thought they were. They're going to be able to handle a team like Paris pretty easily because they're good, but they're not on the level of Faze yet. And they get handled relatively easily. One positive I will say for Boston continues to be a player that I am a fan of, and that's TJ Haley. He looked very good against Paris, and then against Faze, he kind of struggled. But I mean, the whole team, really, besides Cap, kind of struggled against them, at least in the KD department. But I think TJ Haley has this team playing at a good level in search because I got to imagine he's calling a lot of the shots, and he's looked pretty solid in respawn so far. So, I mean, to me, this Boston team shows exactly who we think they are. Good team, middle of the pack, are going to beat the bad teams, but they're still not at that Faze level yet. But they were pretty competitive with Faze, which is nice to see. So maybe they can hit that level. And then you've got obviously Thieves, who sweep the weekend. They get pushed to a Mat 5 by Florida, which is interesting. Then the full sale almost comes to fruition. It gets to a 6-4 after being up 5-0. And then Subliners we talked enough about. So you got anything to say about those teams?
Yeah, classic, like you said, like a Denny Green situation. They are who we thought they were with Boston. You would just hope that this team can continue to grow with the game, because obviously they seem to be, one of the better teams that's figured it out. At least, they figured out how to win matches. Obviously they face the worst and the best teams this weekend, so a very polarizing split of
Mhm. And they didn't look terrible. Like they didn't get like completely outclassed by Faze either. They looked
right.
competitive with Faze.
Yeah. And then obviously, they against Paris, you'd expect any team in the league right now to beat them. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, and then Thieves, like you said, got pushed to Game 5 by Mutineers. I think that they're looking pretty good. I think Envoy is kind of coming into his own as well. He had some monster games in there. I saw he was dropping like 40 kills. I was like, holy crap. I mean,
Yeah,
if this
he looked good.
if Envoy's rounding into form, like, oh, be careful. Like,
Yeah, he looked great in that
yeah.
last series.
Exactly. And then, Mutineers, I don't really want to spend too much time on them too. Just unfortunate results. Like, it looks like they're playing not half bad. They're just not getting the final results. And this is a team that, it's hard to hate them too much. They have some, interesting
I'm a big
personalities.
Skies
Like,
fan.
yeah, you don't want to, yeah, Skies and Vivid, you don't want to like get too down on them. So, but at the end of the day, you have to win your matches in order to get CDL points. And
Yeah.
in that Thieves series, they had 3 of their 4 players go positive,
Yeah.
whereas Thieves only had 1 of their 4 players go positive. So, like, it just, yeah, this game is just it's a weird game. And hopefully they can start to have some results, because I don't think Florida you know should be a bottom team. I think they could be a middle of the pack team, but they just have to start winning. So that's about
Yeah.
all I have.
Yeah. I mean, kind of piggybacking off that, we can talk about quick before we do move on. We can look at and see. I mean, What team with a losing record are you most concerned about? Obviously, the teams we have listed here for losing record: Rocker at 1-2, OpTic at 1-2, Mutineers at 1-3, Subliners at 0-3, and Legion at 0-4. I think we can kind of take Legion out of this we mentioned because, like, what was our level of hope for them? Do we think that they were much better than 0-4 coming into the year? Probably not. Uh, the way I look at it when I'm evaluating this, I expected probably, well, not probably, I for sure expected Subliners to be better than 0-3 coming into this year. Um, Mutineers are kind of about where I thought they were. I didn't expect OpTic and Rocker to be 1-2, when looking at their rosters. But the way I kind of look at this, I think Rocker could finish 1-4 in the regular season of this, so I am kind of concerned for them. But at the same time, I also still think, even though the Rocker are 1-2, I still think at any moment they can win 2 searches and find a way to win a respawn, and they can win a series. So I'm not like I'm concerned about them, but in terms of this list, they're not the most concerning team. I think the same thing for OpTic. Obviously, not the 2-3-5 thing, but I think OpTic can beat you down in 2 hard points and find a way to win one of those other maps. And I do think OpTic is still a very good team. Not so concerned about them. Legion, like I said, out of it. Subliners, I'm very, very, very concerned, but at this point, I'm kind of like, I think Clay and Krim will figure it out eventually, and if they don't, we're in some trouble and maybe have some scary retirements coming down the barrel. But the team I'm most concerned about is Mutineers, because kind of like I said, I'm kind of taking Paris out of this because they're Paris. I see a way Rocker can get out of this losing funk, like I said, through 2-3-5. I see a way OpTic can get out ridiculous level of talent. They'll start winning games. I see a way Subliners can get out regardless of how bad they look. They have Clay and Krim. We know those two could make them at least a 500 team at some point. But Mutineers, I don't know that I see a way out. And it's weird because, like, Skies, do we think, I think, and you can go along with me on this one, Skies, I believe he's a pretty darn good player. Awakening, I believe he's a pretty good player. Vivid, I also believe he's a good player. And honestly, Dave Patey, we haven't seen a lot from him, but I believe he's a pretty good player too, and a player deserving of being the CDL. I just don't think the mix works at all of them together on a team. I think you've got 3 main ARs and a sub, and the pacing is all kinds of off. They have a lot of talent. I just don't think they work together. So, like, I can see a way, discounting Legion, I can see a way New York, Minnesota, and OpTic can all come out of this and get better. I just don't know if I see a way Mutineers can get out of this and be a lot better. So I think I'm most concerned for them.
Yeah, I mean, between me, for me, it's between Mutineers or Subliners. Legion are, who we thought they were.
Yeah.
And, OpTic and Rocker, like we said, probably have higher floors than what they've shown records-wise so far through 3 matches. Rocker had a kind of a tough go at it, and OpTic, lost some heartbreakers in week 1. And then, they're on the upswing right now, it would seem. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like my last little bit on Mutineers would kind of show that, yeah, I mean, they're it's just like they're just such a blah team. Like, it's hard to, for me, it's almost hard to watch their matches just because it's like it's not entertaining, or I don't know. But and then they show flashes where they almost, full sail Thieves on that bow cage search. Um, so I don't know. But then we go to Subliners, and it seems like they're in like no man's land right now. They're, they could be looking to make another substitution for Royalty. Like, Royalty might just be like a band-aid holdover to maybe, eke out a few match wins here or there. Um, I don't know. I mean, and I'm more concerned with Subliners, to be honest. I think that they, you know, if they're not getting results soon, I think that, Clay and Krim might just retire, like, after stage 1. I could honestly see that happening.
I hope not.
They might just say, enough with this shit, and then just get out. I don't know. Like, we tried, and especially since we did see Clay do that last year. I mean, obviously, I don't want to downplay the mental health aspect of, what Clay ended up saying that he was like stepping away for. But yeah, I mean, you can tell that tensions are kind of high over there. But yeah, for me, it's between Mutineers or Subliners. And I'll for having a contrasting opinion, I'll say Subliners. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, those are the 2 clear choices. Mutineers and subliners, I'd agree. So I can definitely see that. And I hope your statement that Clay and Krim could both retire is completely wrong, just because it's definitely not a terrible take, but I want it to be wrong because I don't want them to leave us. I think we can move on into like our power rankings and pick'em standings. Pick'ems were interesting this week because I believe I got 2 matches wrong in terms of the winner, and I think you only got 1. And then you just had more map counts correct, so you kind of got more points for this week just because of those map counts. But we both did extremely well in terms of accuracy of who was going to win the series. If you have those, do you have those steady or on hand? Otherwise, we can move on to power
I
rankings
have
too.
so through 2 weeks I have a total of 25 points and you have a total of 17 points. We did a lot better with our results picking this week. You had 2 correct map results as well. You only picked 2 wrong results, which were the Rocker, which we both picked wrong. Rocker
Yeah, I
over
picked both Ravens series wrong,
Ravens.
didn't I?
Yeah, you did. And then you also picked the LAG Ravens one wrong. Which
Yeah.
I had LAG in a 3-2 in that one, so I don't know. Maybe seeing Ravens be as hot as they were, I would have changed that. If you would have given me the opportunity to switch off of LAG, I might have. But then
Yeah.
it actually turned out to be the right result. And then
That's kind of how I feel sometimes. Like I see my picks that I made for Sunday, and I'm like, I really want to change that.
yeah. So that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, obviously this week we saw how fast the correct map results can really like boost you up because I had 4. I picked the Boston Paris 3-1. I picked the Faze Boston 3-1, and then I picked the Ultra 3-0, which we both did, and then I picked the Thieves 3-1. You had them in the 3-2 over NYSL. So yeah, obviously getting 12 points total out of those 4 matches is big. So yeah, so that's where we stand. Me 25, you 20, or you 17.
Yeah, honestly, a good week for both of us in terms of
Yeah.
accuracy. All right, we can do our power rankings quick. Just list them down, bottom to top, and then get into our predictions and wrap this one up. I think.
All right.
All right, so my power rankings, not honestly too much has changed. I finally put Paris in that 12 hole. I got Florida at 11. I've got New York at 10. And then here, I think there's a pretty big gap. I think there's a pretty big jump from New York up to 9 because I have Boston at 9, although I do think they're a pretty good team to be listed at 9. Got Minnesota at 8, London at 7, Gorillas at 6, Thieves at 5, OpTic at 4, Ultra at 3, Surge at 2, and Faze still at 1.
Wow, that's interesting. You're gonna scream when you hear mine. So for my power rankings, I have Paris at 12, Mutineers at 11, Subliners at 10. I have Rocker at 9. I have
Wow.
I have Optic at 8, LAG at 7, Boston at 6, Ravens at 5, Thieves at 4, Ultra 3, Surge 2, and Phase 1.
All right.
So Optic is definitely trending up. I know I put them at 8, but they did start out 0-2.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it's a bad position.
results matter,
Yeah.
and plus they beat Paris, which is like a win is a win, and a loss is a loss. As we should say that as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then I have maybe I'm a little bit higher on Boston than
I
you
better see
are.
you pick Boston over OpTic this week since you have them higher in the power rankings.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I mean, this is more like, I don't know, results oriented as well too.
Yeah.
And
It's definitely not like unwarranted. Like when I hear OpTic at 8, I'm not like, oh my God, that's like there's a justifiable reason why they'd be that low. I'm just going off how high I think their talent level is and their ceiling
yeah.
is, but like having them at 8 is not ridiculous by any means.
hmm
All
So
right.
yeah, so we can jump into predictions, I guess then.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were pretty long winded on our talks from the past weekend, so we can kind of breeze through these predictions and get people on out of here. But there's some interesting matches this weekend. Obviously, some big time matches because we've got some teams like the Gorillas who are in a must win situation at 2-2. Rocker obviously need to win some matches. OpTic need to have a 2-0 week. You've got a lot of teams that are in interesting situations that are fighting for their winners bracket lives. Obviously, Boston in that same situation at 2-1. They need to win a match. So it'll be an interesting week to see how things play out. First match of the week, maybe not so interesting, and that's LA Thieves versus Paris. I can kick us off with the first prediction. I actually think when I look at this match, LA Thieves' weakness right now is their search and destroy. I think Paris, their search and destroy hasn't been great, but they play very straight up and they're not going to make a ton of mistakes. I think Paris is going to win a search on LA Thieves, which is why I'm not going to pick a 3-0 like most people I think are, and I'm going to say 3-1 Thieves.
All right, I'm gonna go 3-0 Thieves. I don't know. I don't have much warranted confidence in Paris right now. I think that Thieves are kind of, hitting stride in this online environment as well. So yeah, I mean, not much else warranted. Like we said, it's 3-0 or a 3-1. I'm gonna go with the 3-0 to maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be the common pick. I just think Thieves are so bad in search right now that Paris might be able to take one.
Maybe I can steal some more correct map prediction points, or you can look like the smartest guy in the room for picking them to take the search. So,
all right, next match we've got to me what becomes a little bit more of an interesting one because like I said, Rocker's floor is so high. I feel like they're in every match, even if their record is not showing it. I feel like they're going to be in every match. I think this Faze Rocker match could be very, very interesting because of that fact that they could sneak a couple searches off, and then you never know. Maybe they have success and find a 2-3-5 win here. Maybe we'll let you go first with this one because they are your boys after all. You're Rocker. Are you going to pick the upset over Faze?
no. I mean, I picked them to lose last week, also in that surge match. So I don't think I should pick them to lose against the next or the other best team in the game either. Or I shouldn't pick them to win. I should say sorry. So yeah, I'm gonna. I'll give my Rocker guys. I'll give them one map, but I think that Faze is gonna close it out in hardpoint number 2. So I'll go 3-1 to Faze.
Yeah, I'm having a really tough time between. I'm gonna agree with your winner in Faze, but I'm having a really tough time deciding between a 3-1 or a 3-2. I definitely think Rocker are either gonna take the second search, or I'm sorry, the map 2 search, or the map 3 control. I think they're gonna find a way to take a minimum of one of those maps. And usually, I never want to pick against the Rocker in a game 5. But if there was a team that could beat them, Faze are also a fantastic search and destroy team. I'm very excited to watch the S&Ds. I hope we get a game 5 because I want to watch 2 S&Ds between these teams because they arguably are the 1 and 2 teams for search and destroy in the game currently and probably always will be towards the top. So I really want to see 5 games selfishly because I want to watch 2 fantastic search games. But I'm gonna agree with you and go 3-1 Faze. I think their respawn game is going to be a little too much. I think Rocker will win a map 2 or 3, and then Faze will take 2 hard points and one of those map 2 or 3 and win a 3-1. All right, moving on to an interesting matchup because it's OpTic versus their boogeyman from last year, the team that they just couldn't beat. It felt like last year, OpTic, we knew that they had the talent and they could potentially become a top 4 team or break into that top 3. But every time the team that seemed to stand in their way of breaking into the top 3 finish at a tournament was Ultra, and every time Ultra stood strong and seemed to beat them. They knocked them out at champs and everything too. Like Ultra was the OpTic boogeyman last year, so interesting to see. In this first time they play them, if OpTic can get that monkey off their back and maybe take out Ultra and kind of turn a new leaf. I'm gonna make a weird statement here and say I think this is like one of the most important early season matches we've seen OpTic have in a very long time. Because I do think that mental block of Ultra dominating them last year could weigh on them. And if they're able to get that mental block off their back and beat them, it could really unlock things for them. And then they're going to have a lot of momentum if they're 2-2 going into that Boston match playing for a winner's bracket spot. And I think I could see them steamroll Boston if they do win this match. I'm just unsure if they do it, to be honest. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of this depends on how good Cammy's feeling, because who knows if he's got a lot of lingering effects and just like we saw with OpTic players, they said it took them like over a week to really get back into it last year going into champs. And some players we know this year have had kind of lingering effects of just feeling tired and fatigued and not as focused from COVID. So if Cammy's not feeling the best, it could get interesting. Like if Heczy's playing, I could see a world where OpTic wins this, but I'm leaning towards Ultra for now.
What are you leaning?
I think 3-2.
Okay.
I really, really, really want to pick OpTic in an upset because I think at some point they're bound to hit stride and be the top 4 team we believed they could be. But I just feel it's very hard to pick against Ultra because what's OpTic's question mark right now? And that's consistency. What do we know Ultra is? The team of consistency. Like what OpTic's weakness is that up and down is Ultra strength. Like you can always rely on Ultra to be a great team. Like it's I don't know, I wanna know if you agree or disagree, but I like it's almost impossible for me to predict Ultra just getting blown out in a series, right? Like, it just feels like
Oh
it can't
yeah.
happen. Like,
Yeah, I
they're
mean,
always gonna be in a series, so, like and I can see OpTic getting blown out of the water by Ultra just being so perfect, although I do think Cold War was a benefit because OpTic maybe didn't have as good a teamwork, and Ultra's teamwork is perfect, so I feel like OpTic, matches up with Ultra better in this game with how mixy it can get, uh, although Ultra's talent level is right up there with OpTic's. I'm not trying to say OpTic's a lot better in terms of the mechanical skill department, but I'm going Ultra 3-2 because I think they're the better search team, but I'm not going to be shocked if OpTic pull an upset here.
yeah, this game definitely has a 3-2 written all over it. You would just like two powerhouse teams you would,
I mean,
put on
talent is off the
paper.
charts.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with 3-2 as well. I'm gonna give the edge to Ultra here. It'll be interesting though if it comes out that Cammy has to, he's not 100% or that he's gonna, give Hixie the go again this week. Who knows? Um, but like we were saying, Ultra has, they have their work cut out for them this weekend. They have Thieves coming up after this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough week for them.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily find themselves. I shouldn't. I think easily is such a cop out answer, but
Mhm.
there is a world where they could find themselves, sitting at 2 and 3
And that would be a
going
shame
in.
if they're in losers bracket because we know they're not a bottom 4 team.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, they just definitely had a harder stage one than they
Oh,
they
yeah,
had
I mean, they lost
they
to
had
Surge.
Surge. Yeah, I mean this. I mean, if I was an Ultra fan, I'd be kind of
And
losing
it means they got
soul.
easier matches coming up.
Well, I would be, looking at the CDL and being like, "Hey, you better, throw some, Paris's, Legion, Paris, New York at us soon, before, what if it turns out to be that New York like rounds into form and then they, we're thinking New York should be a hard matchup and then or an
Yeah.
easy matchup and then it turns into being a hard one. I don't know. So Ultra definitely got a little bit shafted this stage, but I'm gonna take him in a 3-2 here.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm in terms of series for this weekend, this might be the one I have circled as the match I want to see the most. I'm really excited for this day of matches. I mean, obviously, Thieves Paris, that's kind of whatever, but I am so excited for Faze Rocker because I love Search and Destroy. You all know that, and I think this could be like heavyweight Search and Destroy match. And then, I mean, Ultra OpTic. I'm hoping there's not like a quick 3-0 from either end or something like it seems to always get when we get a match we really want to see, but man, like you said, Ultra has been shafted with their schedule. 2 tough matches this week, but that should be an absolute gauntlet and a banger of a series. I'm super excited for that one. Uh, OpTic has a chance to change the narrative on them, and Ultra has a chance to continue kind of owning OpTic over the last year and going into this new season. Next matchup, though, we've got Surge versus Florida. This is where I'm picking my first 3-0. I'm going Florida 3-0. I'm just kidding. I'm going Surge 3-0. To me, Surge are, if not best team in the game, they're number 2 right now. Florida, I think, are maybe in the bottom 2 teams in the game. So this seems like if there's a place I'm going to pick a 3-0, it should be here. So I'm going Surge 3-0.
Yeah, I'm seeing a hard. I'm hard pressed to pick Florida to take a single map off of Surge. We've just seen Surge are just so dominant in every game mode right now.
And this guy,
Um,
Sim, might be the best player in the game. Might be right
I
now.
mean, right now, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're still seeing other teams kind of, learning this game. It's a progressive, it's an evolution. This game is, but Surge definitely have the pieces, in the puzzle right now, and they have it, almost all completed to where the game is at right now. So I mean, the most I could give Florida is maybe a map, but I just think that Surge are just too dominant. So I'm gonna copy your pick here and take Surge 3-0.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, if you want to play like a devil's advocate situation, you could say that, it took Surge a Mat 5 round 11 to beat Rocker, who have been a little shaky. Um, and Rocker beat them in a hard point and were close on another hard point. So, like, I mean, That's the argument you can make is a team like Rocker, who's very, very, very much struggled in respawns, beat them at a hard point and were very close in another one. So like took a map 5 round 11 to beat a maybe struggling Rocker team is the devil's advocate you could play to maybe say Florida's going to take some maps. But yeah, I think Surge 3-0 is a good pick. All right, New York versus Boston. Our first regular season installment of what the CDL is also trying to make a new rivalry, because obviously you got the Yankees Red Sox rivalry in baseball, one of the most storied rivalries. They're trying to make this New York Boston match a rivalry. This is a big match for Boston because win this and they're 3-1, I believe. Pretty much find themselves locked into a winners bracket spot, which would be absolutely pivotal for this team because we've heard how good they look in scrims come into the year, and they've obviously proved that that wasn't too much of a fluke. Like they look like a pretty good team right now. Their only loss being to Faze, which is obviously not a loss to be ashamed of or anything, and they looked pretty good in it. I think New York will improve this week, though. I actually think this one, I think shockingly, I don't think a lot of people are going to pick this. I think this is going 5 maps. I'm picking Boston in that map 5 to win it 3-2. But I think New York are going to start to figure things out, get a little better as a team. Royalty, I think, will be moved and not be on 80 to 100 ping. He was playing Canada to a Denver, Colorado server, which I got to believe is pretty brutal. And like he said, like the lowest ping he hit on any of the maps was 80. Think that is maybe going to get a little lower for him. He's going to move in time. Think they're going to improve a little bit, but not enough to win the series. So Boston 3-2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-1. I just think it's gonna. I don't know if New York really have 2 map wins in their back pocket yet.
Yeah, I don't
Especially
really
against
know either.
especially against Boston. I think Boston definitely has the edge in search, I would say, with TJ, and then I just think they have more chemistry right now as well. I just don't see it going 5 maps, so I'm gonna go Boston 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, to be honest, I think you probably have the smartest pick. But I mean, if we know anything about our history, I'm kind of the one that likes to go a little random and pick weird map counts and maybe a weird winner sometimes. I definitely think 3-1's probably the safest and most logical pick, though, for Boston in this one. And they're also playing with a lot on the line. So it's the first real pressure series for guys like Cap and Nero. It'll be interesting to see how that works because obviously there's some pressure on this one because you lose this one and then you're playing OpTic for a shot in winners, which obviously is a tougher match right now than it is to play New York. All right, next match, we've got your boys in Rocker versus LAG. This is another banger of a series, in my opinion. These teams are kind of in the same area-ish in my head of how good they are, and I really think that this is kind of a toss-up series. I'm very, very excited. I mean, man, I'm looking ahead at the matches we have to predict. The next 3 matches are bangers. I'm very excited for all of these. We've got some good matches this weekend. Rocker, LAG in this one. Who are you leaning on this one? Obviously, this is your Rocker, but to me, this is a very, very, very tight series. Tough one to predict.
I'm gonna. I don't know. The recent performances would lean me to, or would bias me towards picking Gorillas.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm gonna take a flyer and say that Rocker can, maybe find a way to do it. Confidence level is probably less than 50%, but I'm gonna do it because I know you're gonna take Gorillas probably. So
Mm.
hoping to steal a some points here in the pick'ems. Um, so I'm gonna say Rocker get it done in 5. So 3-2.
You know what? Just since you said I should pick LAG, I'm gonna do it to be different than
You don't
you.
have you pick
Although
pick who you want.
I, the thing is with this one, to me, this is like a series that like if you told me, hey, flip a coin, heads is Rocker, tails is LAG, uh, I would literally flip it and I'd just go with whatever result because I feel that series, like this series here, is that much of a toss up. Like I literally think that these teams in my head, I think clearly LAG is the better respawn team. I think uh, Rocker are the better search team. I also think it's a pretty wide gap. I think LAG are clearly the better respawn team, and I think Rocker are clearly the better search team. So it might just come down to that slower pace respawn and the control. To me, I feel like who wins the control wins the series in this one. I am going to go LAG 3-2. I think they're going to clutch out. I'm at 5. I know I said I'd never like to pick against Minnesota in a 5-game series, but I'm going to flip the script on you. You say 3-2 Rocker. I'll say 3-2 Gorillas. But in terms of confidence level, this is the least confident I felt picking a series of the ones this week. I mean, this one, like I said, coin flip to me. I mean, I wish I had a coin near me. I literally would have flipped one and went with who it said. But I'll go LAG 3-2. Be a little different, and I don't really feel confident in either one, so it's fun to be different. All right. Thieves Ultra, like I said, this one and the next one are some banger series in my opinion. Even the one after that, I think maybe the last series of the week's a little bit of a snoozer, but this match and the next two even after this, I didn't even see that one after that, that Boston OpTic. These are all banger matches. We got Thieves Ultra. Where are you leading here?
I'm gonna go with the Thieves here.
I was thinking that too, darn it.
I'm gonna say Thieves get it done. They're gonna win the second hard point, and then they're gonna win like 1, 2, and 4, or 1, 3, and 4. But I think Ultra are gonna take the search. I don't think it's gonna go game 5, but I could see it going game 5. Like usually when we get these banger matches, it's always easy to just say, oh, this is going game 5. But I'm gonna be a little bit different. I'm gonna say it's gonna end in 4, and Thieves are gonna get it done.
Yeah, I like the end in 4 pick. That's a bold pick. And after I just said you're the one that usually likes to play it safe, you went bold. I like it because, I mean, I would have.
Is Thieves in 4 the new Bucks in 6?
No. They're not the level of the Bucks. Hey, calm down over there.
No, I'm just saying, like as far as saying, I don't know.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You can tell me you agree, disagree. I would say Thieves are the underdog in the series still.
I would say, yeah. I would say yes.
I mean, now we're not talking like crazy upset if they would win this or anything, but I would say Ultra are definitely based on like. I feel like we know Thieves can get to the level of Ultra, but I think Ultra are like safer, more steady. I feel like they're the favorite. But I was gonna say Thieves as well, so I'm kind of sad that you said it. And I was gonna go with like a 3-1, 3-2 because I picked a lot of 3-2s. Now, granted, this game with how mixy it is and the way things tend to go, this game just builds a lot of 3-2 series the way that it's played. But I really want to go Thieves 3-1. That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm gonna go with you. Thieves 3-1. I feel like that's really odd that we're both picking them because I thought this was definitely a series that would be one that we could split on because you've got two teams. One is, I mean, I feel like Ultra are the favorite in the series, but it's another one of those matches between teams that are very close in our power rankings. They're probably both in that like 3-5 range, 3-5, 3-6 range. I'm gonna agree and go Thieves 3-1. And I mean, you know, one of your favorite players in the league, I believe at least, is Straza. He's in that team. Maybe you got a little bias. I got a little bias maybe because my favorite player in the league, Kenny, is over there in that team. Yeah. So maybe there's a little bias kicking in or something, and I want to cheer for them. But if you know anything about me too, I mean, those boys over on Ultra, who's one of my favorite players in the league? I mean, Cammy is right there too. Cammy, and this is a battle of arguably my two favorite players in the league, although Afro's sneaking up there. So I'm always excited to watch a Cammy versus Kenny battle because argument to be made that they're my two favorite players in the league. So I'm going 3-1. Thieves looking for Kenny to have a pop-off series, but this is going to be a banger. I think you would agree with that. At least hoping it is.
I do agree, yeah.
All right. Next series, another one that I said it could be a very good one. Raven Surge. Maybe not one that we would peg to start the year as a really interesting match. I think once again, Surge clear favorites in this one. They have been the better team so far, but London could be playing for a higher seed, maybe to potentially play one of those teams that are more towards the bottom of the winners bracket because they could improve to 4-1. I don't know if it goes by head to head or if it's multiple teams tied. It goes by map count because obviously if they win this and it goes by head to head, they would be ahead of the Surge with both being 4-1. If Surge are able to beat Florida early in the week, which I'm assuming they will be able to. I'm obviously leaning towards Surge in this one. I could see a world where London could potentially win it because I think they have a lot of talent. And, you know, with a team like the Surge that is young, there isn't any moment they could just kind of have a sloppy series as they learn how to be pros and learn how to play the game at a high level. I am going to lean Surge here, and I'm going to lean in a 3-1, although I feel like as I say it, I'd like want to say 3-2 because of how these series tend to go. But you know, I am going to say 3-2. I'm going to say 3-2 Surge. They clutch up in a map 5 and take out London 3-2.
an accuracy 1v4 or something.
I mean, I'd be all for it. That'd be another they line up moment.
Oh god. Yeah. Um yeah, I could honestly see this series, like you said, go any multitude of ways. Surge could come out and just like lay an egg, and then London could like blow them off the map. I could see Surge continuing their dominance and just like having their way. I could see a game where it's just like a match where it's just super mixy the whole time, and like you have hard points end on like a like a 210 to 190 or something. Like it just expires on time or something. Um, yeah, end of the day, I'm gonna be really bold and say Surge go 3-0 here. Uh
Wow.
I just not that I just think I don't think it's an indictment on London to lose this match. Um and I wouldn't even really panic if I was a London fan. You know, if this happens to be a 3-0 as I'm predicting. I just think Surge are going to have a day, and London might get caught out and just not have the answer for them on this day. So, for the sake of being bold and for the sake of this is what my gut is telling me to pick right now, I'm gonna say Surge get it 3-0.
I mean, I don't mind the bold pick. I don't know if I can get on board with it because I can't pick my London team to get destroyed, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. This is another one of those series that I can see going any multitude of ways. I definitely feel strongly that like Surge are the team to pick here, but uh, I could see London making this series interesting and forcing them at 5 like I picked, and maybe squeaking it out or something. Like I don't think it's an impossible task for them, but uh, they don't have as much to play for potentially because it seems like they probably have winners locked up at 3-1. Obviously, Surge do as well because they're 3-0 coming into the week. But this is another match that I think has some potential to be good, and it's also a matchup of the rookies in Nasty and Gizmo versus the rookies in Sib and Pred. So our first taste of seeing what now seems to be a very good rookie class go head to head. Getting into our second to last match of the week. Boston versus OpTic, and like we mentioned, this could be a pivotal series for seeding, depending on what all happens in the week. If OpTic is able to beat Ultra and be 2-2, and really regardless of what Boston does, if they're also 2-2, obviously if they lose to New York, this becomes a crazy series with both teams being 2-2. But even if Boston wins and is 3-1, but OpTic's at 2-2, they could jump them, getting both of them to 3-2. Like this could be a pivotal game for seeding. Only way it's not is if OpTic is taken out by Ultra like we picked. But where are you thinking for this Boston OpTic series? This is an interesting one. I mean I will say I think OpTic's gonna win. Kind of deciding map count right now. I'm gonna pick OpTic in a 3-1.
Yeah, I mean we have OpTic losing in the first one to Ultra, and I don't know, a world where OpTic are 1-4 in the opening stage of the season is just like almost unfathomable.
Yeah.
Ugh, geez, I'm tongue tying myself here, but just because it's, you can't even imagine it. Um,
Yeah, especially with this roster, we thought there's no way
yeah,
that's possible.
yeah, I think I don't know. I just hope OpTic doesn't chalk their vibes too much after Ultra. If they do happen to lose Ultra, obviously if they beat Ultra, they're going to be flying high.
If they beat Ultra, I think they're gonna steamroll this series.
Yeah, yeah. But this is also, they're gonna have. So this is a Sunday match, I believe.
Mhm.
And they haven't played, so they're gonna have Saturday off. Uh, I don't know. I'm reading tea leaves. Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say OpTic get it done in 4 maps.
Okay, that's what I said.
You
Yeah,
know,
OpTic
yeah.
3-1.
So yeah, 3-1 sounds about right.
All right, last match, Faze New York 3-0 Faze. You disagree? Agree?
Uh, I agree. Phase, really comes down to just like, oh, can New York, somehow steal a map? I don't know. I'm gonna go Phase 3-0 though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I always say you got to pick a couple 3-0s, and I feel like this is another candidate for a 3-0 with how bad New York has looked and how good Faze has looked, really. And Faze seems to be on the upward trend right now. Seem to be improving every week. Um, but that's our predictions all wrapped up. Got a little bit of a special Valentine's Day. This episode will probably going up the day after Valentine's Day. little special Valentine's Day edition segment. It's going to be short and sweet to the point, but we want to talk about something from this past weekend, Vanguard in general, and then the last one maybe about the history of COD, something we love from this past weekend, or it's Vanguard so far, something we hate from Vanguard this past weekend, or kind of so far, and then one thing we miss. What are we missing in COD at this point in Vanguard or in general? I'm going to start off with one thing I love. I do love the mixiness of this game only for the fact that it provides so many game fives, because as you guys know, I live for S&D and clutch moments and just love the game mode. So I love a good game five where it gets really tense. I don't love the mixiness for Respawn because I think it makes it chaotic to watch. I think it's exciting for maybe the untrained eye because it's just like head bash, engagement could be fun, but like for somebody that loves the strategy of Respawn, I don't necessarily love that, but I do love the fact that it provides us with so many game fives. So that's one thing I'm loving about Vanguard so far. How about you?
Yeah, what do I love about this? I love the Seattle Surge.
Hey.
They've been rewriting the script on what they were. I think it's, a big benefit not only for the players that, took a chance and went there after the negative press that was surrounding, Octane was just like burning the place down as he left. You had Joey Nubsy being asked who would fill his replacement. And I think a lot of the offseason talk was like, is Seattle really the best place to go? But obviously these players have, just cast that aside. They've seemingly put their egos to the side as well, and they're making the most of the opportunity that they have, and I credit them, pretty big on doing that, and yeah, so that's what I love. I love the Surge making a name for themselves.
All right. I like that. One thing I'm hating from this game so far, though this might be a little bit of a shock, the automaton. Not a fan. Fun to use,
I do not like
very
the
good gun,
Automaton either.
but it's boring. It's for spectator wise, it's boring. I think the pros actually probably aren't a big fan either. It shoots so fast. Also, when I'm playing with it, I feel like sometimes I just like can't get a multi kill. If the first gunfight maybe takes me and my shots are a little windy, I miss a couple shots or something. It's like you run out of bullets so fast, like you're always reloading. The gun is just annoying to watch because it shoots so fast and doesn't recoil. It's like it bails you out of so many situations. Also, it has this like weird delay when you're playing. That's it's hard to notice unless you're like playing. Is like sometimes when you jump to try to shoot, it just like doesn't shoot right away. It's like this. It's like weird and hard to like jump shot with out of attack sprint. It's not a fun thing to watch because it is such a beam and it kills so fast, shoots so fast. Like, I wish the STG was the meta because I feel like the STG with its fire rate being more of a normal AR and not being as good up close with like the automaton could just spray somebody really fast from up close. I'm not a fan of the automaton. I wish the STG could become meta and we could see really a true flex would really come out because a lot of times they're just running second AR kind of like Cold War in this game unless it's like a bow cage because of how good the automaton is and it's even good from up close. But I'd love to see the STG become the gun because that gun isn't nearly as good up close with its fire rate. So it'd be interesting to see the meta shift if STG became the main AR.
Yeah, just to comment on yours, the automaton reminds me of the Cold War M4
Yeah,
before it got banned,
yeah.
or before it got GA'd. Like it was just like a beamer, like kills you and just like it just melts. Obviously the TTK in this game is like kind of ridiculous as well. Um, but yeah, I'd like to see a shift in the meta too. Is it's just kind of boring seeing a gun just like laser beam somebody as well, like point and shoot kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I like that one. For me, I hate the squad spawns. Like I'm somebody that likes to watch the mini. Like sometimes I take my eyes off of the gunfights and I just look at the mini map and like especially on hard points, like you can see like rotations and stuff and how spawns work. Um, for me, like last year, like I just like remember distinctly like one point, like I think it was a like checkmate hard point, like it was almost beautiful to watch the mini map on that map. Like even though checkmate had its flaws, um, sometimes just watching the mini map and how spawns came in, and then like when the hill flips, and then like if you have the map control, it just makes it makes sense. but squad spawns, just people just going anywhere around the hill, and then just like it doesn't seem like there's any like anchor to one particular spawn. It's just hard to look at, and it doesn't really make much sense to me.
No.
Especially since I'm not playing the game, so I don't really like, like towards the end of Modern Warfare, you had like Parasite saying like, I have figured out the meta for spawns, like somebody needs to hire me to teach them the spawns. I was like, this is just silly. Like what, like you need to have some like scientist teach you how to, manipulate spawns or something like that. Just it kind of takes away from the fundamentals of what we know Call of Duty to be. Um so yeah, that's something I hate. I hate squad spawns, and it seems like we might be in for another year of that next year. So who knows?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny you say that as one thing you hate because one thing I said was normal spawns. I said I feel like the art of the comeback in a way, and like beautiful team play, kind of basically what you mentioned is something that's just completely missing with squad spawns. Like you talked about with checkmate, uh, with like any map in a normal game mode, like the ones I'll go back to because they're just some of the most beautiful maps, are like a raid, a standoff, even a lot of the Black Ops 3 maps. Like I feel like a full 60 is just like almost impossible now. When you're maybe playing like ranked play and you're a completely superior team, it's obviously still possible because like if you're just 10 times better than the people you're playing, you can like dominate them, win 250 to 20 or whatever. But at a pro level, where the teams talent wise are always pretty even, a full 60 is almost impossible now because people just randomly spawn behind you and spawn so close that eventually they're going to flood you and kill you when they're spawning so close. Um, to me, the most beautiful moments in respawn COD are when you got that team like Seaside Black Ops 4, to use a more recent thing, when OpTic was down against Splice and like they were down like 2-1 in the series in the winners finals against Temp and the boys over at Splice, and OpTic's down like 245 to 160, and they rally and win the game. They rally off like 90, 100 straight points, and they win the game. And it's like, I mean, that could not happen in this game. You could not come back from like a 245 to 150 deficit and rally out that many points in a row because of how close people spawn. Eventually, they're going to spawn, make you weak. They're going to spawn so close, you're still going to be weak when they see you, and eventually they're just going to flip you out. And that's why we see the most games we've probably ever seen ending without a team hitting 250 because of how just mixy it is and how hard it is to hold a full 60. Like I said, the art of a perfect respawn is almost dead. Like you're probably never going to see 100-point clubs this year like you could in previous titles. And it leads to not having some of the great moments. I understand this is uplink and spawns are kind of like control. They stay pretty consistent, but the greatest example of the most beautiful respawn moment, in my opinion, in COD history is Envy, the slasher, JCap, Apathy, and John roster at IW champs against that Clay Pristini. I believe at that time they had Silly on the roster uh, and Arcitys, and they were down like what 10 to 12 nothing. I don't know. They were down like 10 nothing, some crazy deficit at IW champs, like and going for top 4, and there's like 3 minutes left on the clock, and they go to a listen in with Envy, and I'm sure you've all seen the clip. If you haven't, you need to watch it. It's the most beautiful teamwork in COD history, and they just rally off a bunch of dunks in a row. They're like spawn killing United, and they rallied off. They just listen. They have a listen in the whole time, and it's like the most perfect communication, the most perfect rally. They know where they're spawning. They play the spawn kills perfect. And there's no random spawn of somebody behind you, and they just play everything perfectly, and it's just the most beautiful respawn moment. And it seems like those comebacks are almost dead without the normal spawns. So I miss them. I miss normal spawns in Call of Duty, which we had one year of last year, and it led to some cool comebacks and some cool moments.
Yeah, that's so we share a very similar uh hate versus miss, I guess.
I think you also, with your hate, I think you miss them too.
Yeah, oh yeah, I do. For me, I put I miss colorful looking Call of Duty. Um
Yeah, Black Ops 3,
I don't
Black
know.
Ops 4.
Black Ops 4 is just like, even though it's like few, I get a lot of like maybe some like older purists like me that, came up in like the COD 4 Modern Warfare, we don't really like, I don't really like vibe with like the whole jetpacks, guns that don't actually exist in real life. I don't know. Um, yeah, I've come around on that in the last few years though, like just watching some of the old clips and matches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think COD evolved into, that jetpacky futuristic era. and it kind of left the realism stuff to Battlefield and other games like that.
And it was when it had the most viewers at that time too.
Yeah, yeah, and then obviously, we saw, Modern Warfare was a stark departure from like the color palette. I guess you could say World War II was as well, but that was maybe just more like the devs wanting to be like true to the, you know, to the films and stuff, I guess. And then I think Cold War was okay with color palette. It definitely wasn't, a shiny thing. And then this one, I feel like World War II just kind of pigeonholes developers into, grayscaling, sepia toning everything. Um, and it just looks like you're watching like a historical movie or something, like the Saving Private Ryan or something. Just like it just looks all gray, and the colors are just muted. And then you go back and when you watch like a Black Ops 4 match or something, that's just like colors are popping at you, but it doesn't look cartoony like Fortnite or something. It just looks like, I don't know, it looks vibrant. I don't know. So I miss like a color palette that actually like pleases your eyes but doesn't like overwhelm you. I don't know.
Yeah, I fully I'm on board with that. I'm a jetpack. I think jetpack should be back in the game next year and every year from here on out. And I think I mean nobody wants to play a game with gray color schemes everywhere and like no color and the camos are just boring. We want to play a game with
Yep.
reactive camos that make our guns look cool and actually like make you want to earn them. And we want to play a game that's super colorful because I think this has been done as like a psychology study too. Like you're more interested when things are vibrant and like look pleasing to your eye than when they make you depressed and remind you of World War II. Like
Yeah. Or it's
you're
like,
more interested in it. Like
yeah,
when something
even
looks
like,
beautiful, you want to play it.
yeah, it's like Tuscan. It's like I'm like playing like an all orange map or something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I mean, I get that that's what like they were going for, like a very like Italian esque, looking map or something. But it doesn't have to be like all like orange, or like Gavutu doesn't have to be like all like shades of blue and gray and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. You want all those colors because I mean,
Exactly.
I get that it's a World War II theme game, but like I'll be honest with you, like if I load into a game and it's a World War II titled Call of Duty and it's not like it's really colorful, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe they put colors in this game. I thought everything was black and white back then. Nobody's gonna care. Everybody's gonna be happy that there's colors. Just bring the colors back. I agree with you. I missed that too. There's a lot of things I could have listed here, but bring the colors back. We need them. I don't think we're gonna get them next year, but we know Treyarch will always bring us back to the promised land and put some colors in their game the following year. All right. Down bad sports moment of the week. I might just let you, rock with this one because I think we all know what you want to talk about. I mean, I'm just sad that football's gone. Let's be honest. Think last year basketball was fun for me because my Milwaukee Bucks won a title for the first time in my lifetime. Maybe last time, who knows? It's hard to win a title when you're in such a small market. But they won it for the first time, so that was obviously sad for me to see. Basketball and football have always been pretty even to me, but I don't know. Lately, I've just been a little bit more into the NFL and football. It's my favorite sport. That or the NBA. Those are my two favorite sports. They're really the two sports that I watch. The other ones I tune into here and there, but those are the two sports that I mainly watch. And NBA is in the middle of the regular season, getting down towards the end. So I'm excited to watch my Bucks hopefully go back to back. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. But I'm very down bad that football is over because I would probably have to say it's my favorite sport. So I'm gonna miss it. It's gonna be a long time until it's back. It's got a pretty long off season. I mean, let's be honest. The first regular season games kick up in September, which is like 7 months away. It's a long time to wait for some more football.
Yeah, true, true. All right, I have a triple header for you today. Number one, short. Baseball is still in a lockout, and spring training is supposed to
Yeah.
start soon. And it doesn't seem like it seems like they're still kind of at an impasse. I couldn't be I couldn't be the first one to tell you what they're even arguing about. But yeah, it seems like they're reportedly not close to getting a deal done, and
Mhm.
it likely might impact the start of the regular season, which would just be like such a joke in the 21st century to have your regular season impacted, especially since they play 164 flipping games
Yeah.
in a year. I don't think anybody wants to be watching baseball in the middle of November. It already goes late enough into like, near snowy conditions at the end of the playoffs anyway. So yeah, that's my number one. Number two, what the hell is up with Russia in the Olympics? You have this 15-year-old skater who had a positive drug test for some cardiac medication from 2 months ago that just now gets reported to the Olympic Committee. And then now they're saying that, she's still allowed to compete, but if she places in the top three, they're just going to cancel the medal ceremony. In my opinion, Russia should, after the 2014 Sochi debacle where they were passing urine samples through a hole in the wall, I could make a very inappropriate joke about like, holes in the wall and passing stuff through it. But what the hell? And so they banned Russia, the country, and then they made them like the OAR, the Olympic athletes from Russia, and now they're the ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee. I don't know what on earth is going on. It just seems like a total money shill to appease Russia. And somehow like the Olympics are just a money shill as well, like far from what they used to be. They have record all-time low viewership right now. It doesn't help that this is the third straight Olympics being held on the Asian continent, so obviously the time differential for European and US viewers is just like the middle of the night they're playing like a hockey game or something. It doesn't make sense. Add on that this whole like Russian doping thing. I don't see my Twitter if you want more, hot takes on that. Number three, and this is my former quarterback Matthew Stafford finally got his Super Bowl ring. Wow, come down off the cross, Matthew. You don't have to keep suffering for us, please let me take the nails out of your hands and feet. Come down off the cross. You had these ridiculous Detroit sports fans buying Detroit Rams apparel. They had the Rams horns on the goddamn lion logo. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. I'm happy. At the end of the day, I can't fault Matthew Stafford. He played 12 years here, or some god awful, in this god awful sports city, for maybe the worst franchise in all of professional sports, owned by the totally inept and incapable Ford family. At the end of the day, he went to a powerhouse team that has completely sold the farm to win it all this year, and they actually got it done, which is like really surprising
and rare.
because a lot of the times we see these like super teams fall on their ass and fail. But he has his ring now, and he's probably gonna go into the Hall of Fame wearing a Rams jersey or putting on a Rams hat, which is kind of I think a lot of the Detroit fans are going to be butthurt when that day comes, and he's not going to be wearing that old, that Lions logo. And I think, their comeuppance is coming. They're going to see that his legacy is now cemented as a Ram. He has that all-star receiver in Cooper Kupp. Pretty much his Calvin Johnson 2.0. I think a lot of his Lions history has been whitewashed by winning a Super Bowl. So yeah, kind of, I'm more down bad about the people that bought Detroit Rams apparel than I am about Matthew Stafford. At the end of the day, they woke up on Monday morning today and they had to reckon with the idea that they spent, $25-30 on a Detroit Rams shirt. What are you going to do with that now? You're going to wear it next year? When the Lions
in the Super Bowl,
when the Lions are 2-15 this next season, and the Rams, might make another run. Who knows? They have a lot of rebuilding to do themselves after a lot of these contracts expire and stuff. So yeah. Sorry for my long monologue. A triple header of down badness. I'm sure I could have found 2 or 3 more things to be upset about, but I'm about all tapped out. So, yeah, that's me for the day. Thank you.
All right. I think it's my time to just, wrap up this pod. But the one thing I have to say about that whole Stafford thing is, like I mentioned earlier, living in Wisconsin with a bunch of Packer fans and not being a Packer fan. If you're from the area, you'll know Packer fans love to talk. And my sister is a Lions fan, like a pretty big Lions fan, and I always hear Packer fans would talk trash to her about like Stafford not being able to win big games and kind of like sucking in the big moment. And uh, I'm just laughing and I'm just gritting ear to ear that Stafford played 12 years in Detroit and now has as many rings as Aaron Rodgers, who, I mean, I didn't even want to get started about the Packer fans that claim he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, I'm not one that's all about like rings or everything, rings or everything. I hate that argument because I don't think they're everything. But I mean, when Tom Brady has 7 rings and Aaron Rodgers has 1, when it's a 6 championship difference in arguably the hardest sport in the world to win a championship, I'm done with this Aaron Rodgers talk, but I just love that now forever we can say Stafford has as many rings as Aaron Rodgers, and maybe has a chance to get more because he's probably got at least a few years left, and they've got a pretty good team over there. Granted, they have a lot of people to resign, but got a pretty good team. I'm just so happy that Stafford has as many rings as Aaron Rodgers because it's one more thing for me to just kind of chuckle at when Packer fans would say he couldn't win a playoff game. But I think I'm going to wrap it up now. That's going to do it for this one. We really appreciate you guys listening. It was a pretty long episode. We're almost pushing 2 hours here, but we're still getting used to talking about matches, doing predictions in the same episode. Got a lot to talk about. Looking at potentially doing something new next week, because obviously we're not going to have predictions to do. No regular season matches, not this coming weekend, but the following, and no matches in general because there is a week off and a weekend off before the major. We have a format idea in mind that we'd like to do for the rest of the year. I think you guys will really enjoy it. There'll be some like actual like visual video content involved, so the folks on YouTube will probably very much enjoy that. But that's going to do it for this one. We really appreciate you guys tuning in on audio platforms. If you're there, be sure to drop a follow, drop a review. If you're on YouTube, like I said, leave a comment down below. We'd love to respond to them. Drop a like, subscribe. We're on the road to 400 subs, very close. We'd appreciate all of you that listen and aren't subbed. If you drop a sub and continue to rock with us, that'd be fantastic. That's going to do it for this one. We will see you in the next one when we have our bracket for the major all